Have you ever met someone who is just so convincing? Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're breaking down the art and really the science of persuasion. So let's start with a story. Picture this. A third-grade teacher has this, let's just say, impossible task. She has to get a whole class of unruly 8-year-olds to run a mile every single day in 90-degree heat. Her first attempts, begging, pleading, they went about as well as you'd expect. But then, she had a complete stroke of genius. She didn't force them. Instead, she invented this fierce, all-out rivalry with the 4th-grade class, who had supposedly claimed they were faster. And just like that, running wasn't a chore anymore. No way. It was a mission. It was a quest for glory and, a pizza party. She tapped into their core motivations, and it worked like an absolute charm.
And that right there is the essence of persuasion. It's not about brute force, it's about getting what makes people tick. And honestly, this skill is a genuine superpower. Small, smart changes in how you communicate can create this huge ripple effect, transforming everything from deciding what's for dinner to leading an entire movement. So today, pulling from the work of author Patrick King, we're going to go on the persuader's journey. We'll dive into how to know your audience, how to build a real connection, how to frame the choice, look at some of the hidden levers, and wrap it all up with a very crucial word of caution. Okay, so the first rule of influence is basically a reality check. Persuasion isn't about changing everyone's mind. It's about finding the minds that are actually open to being changed in the first place. So who can you really persuade? Well, the truth is you can't get through to everyone, and that's perfectly okay. The key is to spend your energy on people who are undecided or genuinely curious. Trying to persuade someone who's already dug their heels in is, well, it's like trying to convince a diehard cat person they need to get a dog. It's just a waste of energy. And this is the key difference right here. You want to focus your efforts on the persuadable, the folks who are open, undecided, maybe a little uninformed. You don't want to waste your time trying to break down the walls of those who've already made up their minds. So how do you spot them? You do it by answering the single most important question that's going on in their mind. What's in it for me? If your idea helps them reach their goals, or if it fits with their identity, you've got an opening. The golden rule is simple. To get what you want, you first have to figure out what they want. Okay, once you've found someone who's open to your message, the next step isn't to just unload a bunch of facts on them. Nope, it's to build a human connection. You have to build an emotional bridge that your ideas can actually travel across. And this all starts with a really powerful psychological principle called the law of reciprocity. The source calls this emotional debt. Basically, when someone does something nice for us, even something small, we feel this subconscious pull to return the favor. Think about the barista who occasionally gives you a free pastry. You're way more likely to donate to their charity drive later. That's emotional debt. But this feeling of obligation gets supercharged by one huge factor, likability. Let's face it, people will bend over backwards for someone they like. And in a professional setting, this isn't about being best friends. It's built on 3 really simple but powerful pillars. And this lays out the path perfectly. It's not about big, grand gestures. It's about the small things done consistently. It's showing respect by asking, not telling, building trust by being reliable and fair, and giving real recognition for effort, not just for the final win. That's the foundation that makes persuasion feel almost effortless. So now that we've built that connection, we can move into an even more powerful technique, framing the choice. This is where you actually start to shape reality, because influence isn't just about what you say, it's all about how you present the options. There's this classic scene in the movie Life is Beautiful that captures this perfectly. A waiter has only one dish left, but when a customer asks for the menu, he describes that one dish as absolute juicy perfection. And then he describes all the other totally non-existent options as disgusting. After that presentation, the choice becomes pretty obvious, doesn't it? He completely controlled the context. And look, you're not lying. You're just shining a giant spotlight on all the best parts of your idea while highlighting every single flaw in the alternative. You speak with passion for your choice, and you make the other options sound, boring or insignificant. You're not taking away their choice, you're just making one option look a whole lot better. All right, let's pull back the curtain and look at the most subtle tools in the persuader's entire kit. We're talking about the hidden levers that tap directly into 2 of our most powerful human drivers, our ego and our subconscious. Let me ask you this. You see a sign that says wet paint, do not touch. What is your immediate gut impulse? If you're like most people, you suddenly have this overwhelming urge to touch it, right? Well, that feeling is a real psychological trigger. It's called reactance, and it's our brain's instinctive drive to protect our freedom. And this leads us to one of the all-time classics, reverse psychology. The source talks about a piano teacher who motivated a student by saying he'd never be ready for the big competition. That little challenge to his pride made him practice relentlessly just to prove her wrong. By subtly questioning something a person prides themselves on, you activate their ego, and they will work their tail off to prove their capability, which is exactly what you wanted all along.
So, as we've seen, these tools are incredibly powerful. And like any powerful tool, they come with a huge amount of responsibility. The source material is really clear about this. Persuasion itself is neutral. The very same techniques that you can use to inspire a team, raise money for a good cause, or unite a community, well, they can also be used to manipulate and control people for really destructive purposes.
For example, the source analyzes one of the core principles used by Adolf Hitler, the false dichotomy. He framed the world in stark, black and white terms. He presented his path as Germany's only hope for salvation and every single other alternative as its absolute ruin. This leaves people feeling like there's only one logical choice, and it creates a powerful us versus them mentality that just wipes out any middle ground.
So understanding these tools is absolutely vital, not only so you can use them, but so you can recognize when they're being used on you. The techniques themselves are just levers. The real question, the one the source really leaves us with, is all about intent. Now that you know how the levers work, what will you choose to build?